Welcome to the Draw Shop's Get Genius podcast, where we talk to today's business influencers to pick their brain and pull out their genius. It's time to get genius.
Hello, listeners. I love talking marketing, and today we're going to do just that with our guest, Kevin Donlin. Kevin Donlin is one of those copywriters who probably gets about $60,000 and upwards for his copywriting and marketing consulting. So he's the big deal. He knows what he's talking about. He's been doing this since 1994, probably about the first time. If you were around then and an adult, you were just hearing the word website and internet and going, what is that? Well, he's been around since then, and he's been marketing and copywriting since then. He's sold, I think he sold one of the very first ebooks online. He's been interviewed by ABC TV, Fox News, NBC News, CBS Radio, Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur, Fortune, and so many others. He is quite the genius when it comes to marketing, and he's got this really cool subscription called Marketing Multipliers, and it's like this box that you get with all of these incredible marketing tools, and it's super inexpensive to get it free, actually, in the beginning. So you definitely want to listen to this episode and find out how you can get that. He's going to reveal about 3 to 4 or more tools that you can implement right away. Things like the paper email, other things like tangible marketing, which is what he practices, which is really awesome. And I think when you hear what it is, you'll realize how it's actually worked on you. So really happy that you guys get to hear Kevin today. I feel like you can never get enough marketing tools, and the thing is that sometimes we hear things, we put them to the side, we don't ever do them. I hope that you actually take these tools and use them in your marketing. I love the fact that Kevin he consults on marketing, he's a copywriter, and he also actually does this for his own brand. And that to me was like so great, because I know that sometimes there's marketers out there that tell you how you should be doing something, but they're not actually doing it themselves. And you want to say, hey, why don't you try it and see what it'll do for your business? So Kevin does that. And he's also extremely generous. So if you listen through the episode, he's going to give something to you for free. So listen to the episode, find out what you need to do to get that, and take some notes on this. Get tangible with this. Get a pen and paper out, write it down, and use these tools. Enjoy the interview. Hello, Kevin, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Summer. I really look forward to this. It's going to be really good.
Yes, it is. We're gonna talk some marketing, which you are an absolute genius at. So I'm looking forward to all of
Stop right there. I had genius. No, hard worker. No, I never quit. Yes. But.
Look, I only have geniuses on this show, so you just are.
All right. I'll do the whole interview under protest. Right. I know what the title of the podcast is, but thank you.
So let's talk about, I know you've been copywriting since 94. Is that right?
Yeah, in one form or another.
Yeah.
I've been selling with words since 1994. You're correct.
Well, I have a copywriter myself, so I just super geek out on it. I love words. I love talking to other copywriters because there's always something new that I can learn.
Absolutely.
But I'd love to hear how you got into that and what you were doing before you got into marketing and copywriting.
Super. So my bio is pretty long, and I'll spare you, but before getting into copywriting, I was a high school history teacher. I was a textbook writer. I was a bass player and a guitarist in a band in Detroit that you'll never hear of ever. And I've traveled.
What's the name? We got to know the name.
It's called the Hula Poppers. Actually, our CD is on Amazon somewhere. It's named after a bass lure.
Nice.
Belongs back when I had hair in the 90s. And so, I've had a lot of different jobs, and I think it's really helped me to understand people that's probably, if I have one trait, I think I'm pretty empathetic. I can understand what people are saying, and then I try to understand what they're not saying and get a whole picture. So that's been really helpful for me, just doing lots of things and lots of travel. And so in 1994, I was living in Minneapolis. I'm originally from Michigan. Came here because of the job market. There in Michigan, my dad worked for GM for 37 years, and so early on I decided I'm not working for anybody ever because he just never liked his job. And you're really beholden to the man, if you're an employee. So I was always going to be an entrepreneur. And in 94, I got a sales letter from a guy by the name of Jay Abraham, who's been my number one marketing mentor ever since. And it was selling his printed newsletter that he used to have back in the 90s. And I just thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever read. It was just the most genius. If you want to say genius, that Jay Abraham qualifies.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I didn't have a lot of money. I was working a temp job in 94, but I thought, I've got to subscribe to this. I think it was $195 a year, which was a huge amount of money to me back then. So I started reading anything and everything I could find by Jay, which led me to Dan Kennedy, which led me to Gary Halbert, which led me back to John Caples, all the way back, Claude Hopkins. So I've starting with Jay, I've gone backwards and forwards, and just I geek out on copywriting just like you. And to me, it's alchemy. It's making value out of nothing. Nothing being, digital words on a screen or words on paper. Nothing is not quite accurate, but you're creating value pretty much out of thin air. If you get the words right, magic can happen. So I just thought, this is just the coolest job ever. So I decided early on, after getting exposed to Jay, that I was going to become a copywriter. And that probably was in around the spring or summer of 94. And by the fall, I had gotten interested in this thing called the internet. I had an account with America Online, like most of America. I don't know if you remember, but everyone in America got about 10 floppy disks in the mail. No, they were hard disks, but America Online just carpet bombed the whole country. And so we were all on America Online. Could have been CompuServe. I was on them too. But I found this thing called Usenet, which was a precursor of the web. I was also doing FTP and Gopher. This won't make any sense to a lot of people. You can Google them. But long story short, I decided, well, if copywriting is selling with words and the internet's just full of words, this was pre-web. It was mostly just words. So I started hanging out in these news groups and came up with this special report I titled How to Find a Job on the Internet. And I simply did it by researching all the job postings that were online and putting together, I think it was 10, 20 ways to find a job on the internet. And the information was good. And I sold it on Usenet, and my price was $10. And I guess it was an ebook because you had to mail me a check to my post office box, and you had to write your email address on the memo line. So every couple of days I would go down and get the checks and email the text file to people who had paid me the huge exorbitant amount of $10 each. Made a few $100. It was beer money. But this was e-commerce in the fall of 1994. And so I guess I sold one of the first ebooks online. I don't know for sure, but I just blundered into things. So I've been very much kind of a Forrest Gump of online marketing. I've just blundered into some cool opportunities. After that, I got hired by a marketing communications firm here in the Twin Cities. This was early 95. And I think largely because I had this weird thing on my resume. It was an email address, and they kept remarking about this thing. An email address. So you've got email. Yeah, I've got email. And, it was just the funniest thing. So I got hired for that. And then their biggest client was called FedEx, Federal Express. And they had this thing called a website. This was now spring of 95. And they were getting emails from customers. And basically the emails were all a variation on the same question, where's my frickin' package? And they were answering these emails, and they were also answering other questions. But it was starting to become too much work for FedEx, and they were looking to outsource it to us because I was also writing leave behinds and brochures and other copy for them for their sales force. So I was doing copywriting then. And they said, well, we hired Kevin. He had an email address. He must know everything about the internet. Let's get Kevin. So this is a tip. If you're still working for someone else, just say yes to everything.
Right.
And you can create your own opportunities. And so no one wanted to go within 10 miles of this project except dumb Kevin. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. What is it? Yeah, I said yes first, and then what is it? That was typical of how I did things. And so my client at FedEx, his name was Robert Hamilton. He's another genius. He's the guy who took the internal tracking system at FedEx. The whole thing had been on an intranet for a while. So internal employees, when you called FedEx, they would track your package using their intranet. It was an internal website. And Robert said, well, what if we turn this loose on the world and put it on the internet so that anyone can see it? And basically people say that's a stupid idea. No one's going to want to track their package. They're going to want to call. Everyone calls. And he said, let's try it. So bam, suddenly everyone was visiting. There probably were like a dozen websites, in 1995 in the early beginnings, 6 or 12, whatever, of any renown. And FedEx.com was one of them. And so people were hitting this website, asking questions. And so I started answering the questions for FedEx. So my title was Webmaster for FedEx.com. And then I quickly got a handle on, questions people had. So I would call Robert and my other clients down in Memphis and say, we should have a web page that does this, and we should have a web page that does that. And so we went back and forth, and I would occasionally dictate web page copy over the phone. So there was no WordPress, there was no program. You had to code a page using, WordPad or Notepad. And I learned to code websites and web pages. So I was kind of present at the birth of e-commerce. I tell people I was sort of like a mechanic for the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
So, and it was called electronic commerce marketing in 1995 before people got smart and just said e-commerce. But it was fantastic. We were making it up as we went along. And by the end of 2 years, I'd been doing the project 2 years. We went from like 5 emails a day to about 500 a day. And I had 2 full-time employees working under me doing nothing but answer emails for FedEx. And at that point, I left in 1998 and went out on my own. And I can keep going, but that's how I got to working for myself pretty much full-time starting in 1998.
Wow. It's so crazy because when you think about it, it's not that long ago that we were there.
Yeah. It's about 19 years. It's a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
In terms of what's available and what's doable. But the constant for me is words that sell, words that persuade. And so that's always what I've been doing. And now, of course, I do direct mail and a lot of online marketing. But that's how it started for me, was this thing called the internet in 1995. And it's just been a terrific ride.
So you mentioned something important earlier at the beginning about empathy. And I'd love for you to elaborate on that and why it's so important in marketing and in, with your words and being persuasive with your words.
So anytime a promotion fails, there are a lot of reasons. You do a postmortem. A lot of times you have the wrong list. You're promoting the wrong thing to the wrong people. Or your offer is bad. You're trying to sell, parkas on a beach in Hawaii. That's a bad offer. But in many cases, it's you're writing and you're speaking a language that doesn't make any sense. It does not connect with the audience. And so as much as anything, when I'm researching to create a new promotion, I want to get inside the heads and the hearts of the people who are going to be potentially buying this thing. And so empathy is just a huge thing, the ability to connect with the other person's emotions, because it's all about emotions. I think you know this as a marketer. People buy based on emotion, and then they justify later with logic. And so the most valuable research I do before doing a promotion is to read I go to the bookstore, and I grab a dozen magazines that are read by the audience. Case in point, I'm doing some work this week for a company that does training seminars for truckers and logistics. And so I'm very deep into learning all about trucking and logistics, relearning it actually. I learned a lot of logistics working at FedEx. But you want to really get inside the hearts and minds of the people who are going to buy your stuff. And one of the things that I use as a shortcut, and we can talk about it later, it's one of my marketing multipliers. It's a little tool that can deliver big results for you. I call it the Amazon focus group. And one of the things I use Amazon for is to read book reviews. No matter what you're selling, there's a book about it, probably dozens. And what you want to do, if you really want to get up to speed on what a market is thinking and what their hot buttons are, their emotional hot buttons, is to go read the book reviews and find out what people like about particular book and also what they hate about it. And that'll tell you what they want to trade their money for and what they don't want to trade their money for. That's there are a couple ways to use Amazon. That's one way to make it your personal research group. The other thing is to find blogs written about your topic. And you want to read the blog articles, but you want to go deeper. You want to read the comments on the articles. And whenever you can read an article that's got like 100 comments, sports stories are great for this. I'm a Detroit Tigers fan. And right now, as we're speaking today, everyone wants to execute the Tigers manager because he's got a closer who can't win games. And if you read the comments in the latest Tigers loss yesterday, everyone thinks they're smarter than the manager, and they're all things like, he's stupid, anyone off the street could manage this team, I could close better than Rodriguez. And so if you wanted to write a promotion at Tigers fans and you were going to send it this week, you'd want to use language like anyone off the street could manage better than Osmus, and I could close better than Rodriguez. So you find the jewels in the comments on blog posts, because those are written by real people who are really emotional about a topic. No one posts a comment on a blog article unless they're feeling kind of emotionally charged up about it. If an article leaves you cold, you'll leave the web page. But if you're really emotionally invested in an article, then you post a comment. So comments are a little gold mine. And I've written promotions. Some of my biggest winners came with ideas I pulled off of comments from blog postings. And that's just a quick shortcut way to empathize with your audience and really figure out what they're thinking and what their emotional hot buttons are.
That is such great advice, and you really get their language too. Because
exactly.
A lot of time,
I will actually create a text file and copy and paste. It's voluminous by the end of it after a half hour.
Right.
And it's simply a matter of, let the market write your sales promotion. That's my favorite way, is to let someone else write. A quick story. I wrote an email promotion about 6 years ago for new brides, 24-year-old women. And at the time I would have been 45, and I'm not a woman. And, I was married and a dad, and what am I going to say to these women that's going to make them pony up, $2,000 for a destination wedding vacation to Tahiti? Well, I was looking at blog posts and the comments, and I can still remember some of the posts from these brides, who are frazzled. They're planning their wedding, and the comments were things like, no one understands you. Everyone wants a piece of me. I'm going crazy. I'm running in circles. So I was just saying thank you very much and copying and pasting all of these comments into a text file. And then I wrote the email, and it said, if you're getting married, I understand what you're probably going through. Everyone wants a piece of you. You're running in circles. You're feeling frazzled. I get it. And at that point, I had their attention. So we sold over $30,000 of destination weddings to a rather small list, actually. It was just local Chamber of Commerce names, completely cold. It wasn't spam, but these people were kind of rented, had no connection to the travel agency. But the women were calling and saying, yes, you understand me. Yeah, you get me. And it was really a 45-year-old man who got them, but I wasn't going to tell them.
Which is always the most important thing. People need to feel understood, and that, oh my gosh, you get me. This is where I belong. now that I feel that you get me, I'm totally open to what your solution is. And today, versus 1994, you have all of this, available to you on the web. I mean, there's forums, like you said, the blogs, the comments, the books, like reviews. It's all there. So you can become an expert in, if you're a 12-year-old middle schooler, you can become an expert at being one.
Exactly. It's just simply a matter of research. That's the cure to most marketing problems is research. People don't want to do it. They just want to pull something out of their head. They want to swipe something and just replace a couple words. It just doesn't work.
Right.
You can find out on your own, or you can trust me. I spent 20 plus years, finding out the hard way. But yeah, it's research. And I remember going to the library, when I was working at this Marcom agency, walk down the street to the Minneapolis library. Don't need to do that anymore. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you're doing today. And who, what your business is about and who you help.
So I have two businesses. The longer tenured one of the two is called Client Cloning Systems, and that's my copywriting shop. It's just me. I have some people who help me with research, but my clients for copywriting are typically businesses in the $2 to $20 million range. They often have an e-commerce website. They're often selling a service, but also retail products can work. And for those folks, I do probably a couple promotions a month. I try to limit things because I want to do as much research as I can for folks and get to know their business. I'm pretty selective. Most of my clients come from referral, and I'm not cheap, but I'm not the most expensive copywriter either. So that's Client Cloning Systems. The other business, which I have a new book out by the same name, it's called Marketing Multipliers. And Marketing Multipliers is typically for, it's a monthly subscription box. It's also a book. But it's typically for businesses doing $250,000 up to 2 or even 20 million. But it's for smaller businesses, one man, one woman bands, entrepreneurs, people who run a real business. And for them, what I try to do every month is create a tool based on my skills. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about some, depending on how much time you want to go into. But typically, what I told you earlier, the Amazon focus group, that's how to do, hours worth of research in about 30 minutes. It's no substitute for long-term knowledge of your market and real in-depth research where you're actually interviewing clients and buyers. But the Amazon focus group is an example of one of my tools. It helps you replace a lot of time-intensive and very expensive skills. It's similar to lighting a fire. You could certainly spend 30 minutes with a bow stick and trying to heat up some sawdust, or you can strike a match. The former is a pretty labor-intensive skill, and the latter is a tool. So I'm trying to create tools for people to replace skills, and that's what I do with Marketing Multipliers.
And I love the word multiplier. It always gets me excited because it's it's more exponential than it is, like you said, doubling something. So let's definitely talk about some of those multipliers and give our listeners some good takeaways.
So let me just look here. I've got I've done 24 of these things in the last couple of years. So every month I send out a box with a different tool. One of the earlier ones I did that people really like is called the paper email, and that's featured in my book. It's also featured on the welcome box that people can request from my website. The paper email happened about 6-7 years ago. I was going to send an email to Seth Godin. Probably most people are familiar with Seth. I'd seen him speak. It was 2009. And it was at a J. Abraham conference, oddly enough. So those two names run together again. Yeah. And Seth gave some great information, and I wanted to send an email. Thank you, Seth. And I was about to hit the send button, and I realized, well, wait a minute. He's going to get about 200 emails today, and a lot of them will go to spam, and he may not even see this. I've spent 10 minutes writing this perfect email, trying to convey all my gratitude, blah blah blah. And I thought, no, I'm just going to mail the thing. And so I copied it and pasted it into a Word document, made a few changes to it, but I printed it and mailed it to him. Now, it's not hard to find most people's address, and I found his. I did a bit of research. So I changed the introduction. I said something like, I sent you this paper email to make absolutely positively sure I got through your spam filter. And that was the one change I made to the email when I printed the thing. The rest of it was exactly what I was going to put in the email, but didn't. So I printed this, signed it, mailed it. And about 5-6 days later, I was away from my phone, but I get back and there's a voicemail, and it was Seth. He'd called me from his car. I could tell from the background noise. He said, "Hey, Kevin, this is Seth Godin. I just wanted to thank you for your super nice note. I just got it, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it." And that was his voicemail. I thought, wow, that was interesting. I kind of wish I had taken that call. I'd been around because I'd love to talk to Seth. But the point is, hey, he called me from his car. Now, odds are about 1,000,000 to 1 he would not call me based on an email. So I thought that was interesting. I just got one of the busiest and most successful people in my industry to call me. And so I wonder if I could make this happen again. And so I started sending these paper emails to people. It evolved. I also added a title at the top that says paper email. Strangely enough, it's actually a headline. And the introduction is typically, why did I send you this paper email? ? Well, I wanted to make absolutely positively sure I got through your spam filter, and here's what this is about. And then the rest of it is just, good, solid sales letter copy. And I can tell you that, it's pretty much direct mail for busy people. If you think about it, everyone and anyone in their business sends emails out. But a lot of people are intimidated by direct mail. They think it's got to have all this formulaic stuff, an intro and body copy and a closing and an offer and a call to action and a PS. It's kind of intimidating. So really, this is direct mail for busy people, busy entrepreneurs. And I've used them myself. I've been called back by prospects who were ignoring my emails. I've gotten podcast interviews from people who were too busy to reply to my requests for interviews. So I can tell you, Summer, if you didn't reply to my request about 2 weeks ago, right about now you'd be getting a paper email from me because I really wanted to be on your podcast. So you might have gotten one eventually. And I've been called back by editors at magazines. I've had articles placed. I've won big contracts in part because of the phone calls I had. So the thing, it works. And I describe how to do it in my book, Marketing Multipliers. But, if you can send an email, it's not that much harder to print and mail the thing. It's just direct mail for busy people. One suggestion that I always make to folks is that you hand address the envelope if you can, unless you're sending out a huge batch of these things. But you want to use a hand addressed envelope and then a live stamp, not indicia or a meter, and a commemorative stamp is best. And with those few tricks, you can get your letter open. If you think about it, on a good day, commercial email has an open rate of anywhere from like 15 to 25%. Right? If it's 30%, you're doing cartwheels. Well, that means, 70% of people didn't get your email. To me, that's not a huge moral victory. By contrast, if you send a direct mail letter to people and they open it, and if it says Summer Felix and it's hand addressed, you're going to open that. It's about a 98% open rate. So it's a completely different success metric. It's 3 times better typically, and it's still so new that no matter how many podcast interviews I do and people I tell this to, whoever you're sending a paper email to has probably never received one before, and for them it's going to be new. And even if it isn't, it still shows that you took some effort and you cared enough about this person to send them something on paper. So that's an example of a marketing multiplier. I call it the paper email.
I would absolutely agree with that, and I love that. Because we've done that with the Draw Shop, where we have it's direct mail, and it's sent to the editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine or different places that we want to have a write-up. And it's interesting how you get the response on that rather than just an email.
Exactly. It's I'm a big fan of tangible marketing. You can also call it analog marketing or meat space marketing, whatever you want to call it. But offline marketing, if you're a serious business, it deserves a place in your marketing toolkit. Any direct mail, tangible stuff. It's a completely different experience.
And there's so many different tools, obviously, to use that would be in your toolkit. What are some other multipliers that are different than other old school marketing ideas that maybe don't work anymore?
Well, this is kind of Latin is sui generis. It's its own animal. There's something I call the ideal client card. I've had really good success with this. So this is sort of an internal thinking tool, but it helps you get more clients like your best clients. We've all heard the idea, for example, of customer avatars.
Yes.
Where you give it a name even, it's Sally, she's 37, she's married with 2 kids. You have all this demographics, and that's fine. It has its place. But what I found is that, again, we're back to tangible stuff here, right? What I like to do is create a 3x5 card. And I like to, everyone has their favorite clients. It's going to be 3, it's going to be 5, it's going to be 20. But what I always do every year, I take time and I make a card for each of my top 5 clients. And on the card, I put a lot of information. I'll just highlight the important parts. I put their picture, which is easy to get online. Then I put their source. Where did I get them? Was it a referral? If so, was from whom? If it was networking or one of the mastermind groups I belong to, where was it? Then I put down their monthly revenue. Most of my clients are on retainer. Then I put down their lifetime revenue. How much money have they paid me over their lifetime? It's typically a nice 5-figure number, sometimes approaching 6 figures and more. And then I also put down another category called upside, which means how much more stuff could I do for them? What are some needs that they're going to have coming up that I can help fill? So I have on my desk right now, I've got 5 of them. these are my 5 current ideal clients. What I do every day is I pick up these cards and I just shuffle through them. And what I'm doing here is making real, live, tangible connections that just you can't get them by looking at stuff on a screen. I don't know if you can hear my cards shuffling.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
And so what happens when you start making physical contact with these cards is that your hands send a tremendous amount of information to your brain. Your hands are like along with your eyes, bring in a huge disproportionate amount of information to your brain. So when you're touching something with your hands, it's really connecting deeply to your brain. It's making a lot of connections. It's kind of taking over a large part of your thinking capacity. When I'm touching these cards and flipping through them, I'm making literal neural connections in my head. There's Jeff, and here's Jeb, and here's Jill, and what could I do that's similar to all 3 of these? And maybe I can introduce Jeb to Jeff, and they can do a deal together. So I'm making all these connections that I'm actively handling the information. And I can tell you, just by doing this every day, I find new needs and fill them for these clients. I get new referrals from these clients. I get new projects from these clients. In my book, I talk about how I was able to double my revenue to one client. It was an extra $3,000 a month, because I realized I wasn't doing something for him that I should have been. So I was only after handling his card a couple of times that I realized, this guy can use this service, and he bought it. And then I got another retainer from a referral from one of these clients, and I got a referral and a promise of a new project from another client. It all comes from handling these cards physically.
Right.
So the ideal client card is one of my favorite tools because it generates revenue from within your own business. Everyone has ideal clients. And if you start making these cards and physically handling them, you can sell more to these clients, or you can get referrals from these clients. None of your competitors can see it because it's completely hidden. It's sitting on your desk. You don't even have to tell anybody about it. But this is an example of, most of my best ideas are borrowed from other people. That's my favorite form of creativity. I call it idea arbitrage. And so I got this idea from a book that anybody can read. It's called Smarter, Faster, Better. It's by Charles Duhigg. He also wrote The Power of Habit.
Yeah.
And the story in his book was about how elementary school teachers did this for their students. They made a card, a 3x5 card for every student. And they wrote down similar key success indicators, key metrics. It wasn't about revenue, of course, but it was about test scores. And they were handling these kids' cards every day, updating the cards, and they were sitting together in the teacher's lounge, and the teachers started exchanging ideas, and they started making new connections and insights. And I believe they tripled the test scores for their students. And the beautiful part of it was there was no additional outlay of money on technology. It was 3x5 cards. It was actually by reducing technology, because they had been passively looking at dashboards for each of their students for quite a while, and the gains were minimal. But by using 3x5 cards for the students, they were able to increase the number of students who met state guidelines by 300%. So I thought that's pretty interesting. And so I ported it over to marketing, and I've had good success with it. My members of my Marketing Multipliers Club have had success with it, and it's zero technology. It's so old school. All you need is 3x5 cards, some Scotch tape, and a pencil, and it's one of my favorite ones.
This is so great. I love this. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Victoria LeBaum. She's a speaking coach, and she's amazing, and I'm working with her, and that is how she helps you organize your talks with 3x5 cards. And so many people go, well, wouldn't you just put this in a PowerPoint and just move this here, move this there? And it's like, no, there's something about laying them out on the table or the floor or wherever and going, okay, this point is actually going to go over here, and this is going to go over here. It's just, it's that tangible thing that you just go, okay, now I feel more confident. And I don't know exactly what it is, but that's interesting. And I love this whole idea of tangible marketing. This is so great. What are some common marketing mistakes that you see a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners making?
I think two come to mind, really. One is no systems or daily rituals. Most folks are just winging it. They get up, the first thing they do is open up their email program, And as soon as you do that, you are in reactive mode. You're reacting to other people's messages and requests. And as soon as you dive into email, you have abdicated responsibility, you've abdicated control, and good luck with the rest of your day. So what I like to do is be on offense. So one of my rituals is I don't look at email. I don't answer anything until about 11 o'clock Central Time, unless I'm expecting a reply to a project proposal. But barring, a rare event like that, I don't even look at email till 10 or 11 most days. And I have checklists. I'm a big fan of checklists. There's a terrific book called The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, I believe is his name. But so a checklist this is an upcoming marketing multipliers tool, by the way. I can tell you that it's going to be coming in a few months. Okay. If you get into an airplane, if you go to get heart surgery, the two things in common are that both of those highly trained professionals are using a checklist. That plane doesn't take off unless the pilot and the co-pilot go through a checklist. Heart surgeon has a checklist. If they started surgery with 37 tools, by God, at the end, they better count 37 again, or they're going to have to open you up and go find what's missing.
Right.
So checklists are just a simple way to make sure you're doing the right things in the right order every time. So I have checklists for my daily activities. And I got a box, for example, says email, and there are two boxes. That means I can't check email more than twice. If I check it more than twice, I've screwed up. And I've got checklists for how many thank you notes I'm going to send. So it's a way to stop trying to wing it every day. If you think about it, there's going to be a recipe for success no matter what your business is, and it's not that hard to find out what's working and just systematize the thing. People talk about systems and funnels, and you need those. But again, we're back to something that's so low tech, it's no tech. A checklist on paper is going to keep you on track every day. And at the end of the day, you're going to know I did everything I needed to do today. I made 3 calls. And I only checked email twice, and you're using the same technology as a heart surgeon or an airplane pilot. So it's a big deal, and it helps you to make sure you're doing the right things every day. And that's really, one definition of success that I like is you're doing the right things consistently. And so checklists are a simple way to do that, a marketing checklist. I think the other big mistake I see, and we've kind of talked around this topic, is that people are trying to do everything online. They're trying to do everything with email or social media, and that's, to me, is just a big no-no, especially if you sell a service, for example, which is an intangible. You really need to get tangible with your marketing as soon as you can. Direct mail, of course, is a terrific way to do this, but look, a phone call is better than nothing, and a meeting is terrific. That's probably the best, most effective way to sell is, in person. Since you can't do in person, phone, direct mail, those are kind of the next best things. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you can get tangible with your marketing, you're going to be ahead of the game. And if you can do nothing else, we talked about the paper email. Another dead simple way to get tangible with your marketing is a thank you note. And I can tell you, Summer, that you're going to get one from me in about 72 hours. I send one to everybody who's kind enough to interview me. And it's one thing to send you a thank you email, but when you get that little square envelope from me, the funny thing about thank you notes is they come in that square envelope. Only 2 things come in small square envelopes: thank you notes and party invitations. That's right. It. Both are good news. So we talk about, behavioral economics. I'm going to engineer a smile on your face from 2,000 miles away in about 72 hours, because when you get that square envelope, you're going to grin just a little bit. You can't help it. It's good news. You don't get a summons from the county about unpaid traffic tickets. You don't get a letter from your ex-wife's attorney. You don't get anything from the IRS in a small square envelope. It's always good news. So a thank you note is one of the easiest, simplest, most effective ways to get tangible with your marketing and make everything else work better. So in a sense, a thank you note is one of the ultimate marketing multipliers.
And these are some of the things that, people have been doing for years, or once upon a time did, and then just kind of let it go, because everything, once, there's the internet, there's all these different apps and different programs. Everybody's automating everything. And then now it's this rare thing to go, oh, you just sent me a thank you note.
What is this thing? Yeah. And people, most of us will keep the things. I have drawers of them all over the place in my office and at my house. Tell me the last time you printed an email. It was the most wonderful thank you email, and you printed it and put it in a drawer. Never.
Exactly.
No one does that.
Exactly.
And half the time, you're in the bathroom or you're walking the dog and you're reading it on your mobile phone, and then with a swipe of your thumb, it's gone forever.
Right.
It's a 3-second interaction. It's like the ultimate transaction. You don't want that. There's a big movement, called slow food or slow cooking. Well, I'm just coining this term off the top of my head, slow marketing, right? If you take some time and show people, I took 2 minutes, I wrote you a thank you note, and you're going to take at least 30 seconds and read the thing. The nice thing about direct mail, Dan Kennedy coined this term, it's about selling in a competitive vacuum. If you're holding onto a letter and reading it from me, there's nothing to click. There's no other tab open in your browser that's going to distract you. You're not going to go check the sports scores or see what your stocks are doing. You're just holding this letter. I have your complete attention for as long as the words are compelling. So if you can put an interesting message on paper and deliver it to people, you are selling in a competitive vacuum. That's a nice thing. I use FedEx all the time, by the way, because we spoke earlier about how direct mail done right has an open rate of 90 to 95%. Well, FedEx has an open rate of 100%.
Right.
There's no such thing as a FedEx letter that gets tossed unopened.
Right.
So I send them a bunch. So, and by the way, I don't own stock in FedEx. I'm not touting them because I used to work for them, but FedEx is unlike anything else. And so when I'm delivering a proposal to a prospect, I delivered 2 today. And I know when they're delivered because I get a notification by email from FedEx. And so, bam, I know that you've had time to read this. And I'll tell you one of my tricks here. I just sent the email. I've sent 2 of them this morning. The subject says, "Did you get it?" And the email says, "A FedEx letter was delivered to a FedEx letter with your name on it was delivered at 10:45. Did you get a chance to look at the project outline inside? ? Please let me know. ... Thank you." So that thing gets sent about 45 minutes after the FedEx arrives. And that's an example of online and offline marketing synergy. 1 + 1 = 3.
Right.
And I got an email about an hour ago from the woman that said, "Yes, I did. Let's talk. When can we talk?" So after we hang up here, I'm talking to her in about 90 minutes. She's going to buy. So that's an example of how you can make your marketing stronger. It's by combining the online and offline components. And that's literally an example of synergy. 1 + 1 = 3. At least that's been my experience.
And you just think about that, it's like it's this really strong call to action without really doing anything except mailing something. And just looking at it, just the packaging itself, that little square envelope, makes you say, your curiosity is so piqued, I have to know what's inside of this. And when you're in that state of mind, you're obviously going to be more, tuned into what it's going to say, and you're going to pay attention rather than, some email that, you've got to be really, really creative today to have, to get that high open rate with your emails, because people their mailboxes are inundated with emails.
Yeah. And that's why, the email I send after the FedEx, and the subject says, "Did you get it?" It's like, click. Oh, wait, I did get something 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to open this. So, if you can be strategic about your email, you can engineer some pretty good reactions if you know what you're doing. And it's not that hard.
So great. So how can people get involved and get their own tools, their marketing multipliers sent to them?
Well, what you could do and should do, and I would be very happy if you did do, go over to www.marketingmultipliers.com. You can request a free trial box. You get 11 tools by U.S. mail, and you can do that for the princely sum of $1. If you like what you see, you can stick with it. And the monthly subscription it's only $29.95, but it's a monthly tool in a box. I'm a big believer in direct mail, obviously. I also include, for folks in the States here, at least one food goodie every month. We could talk 30 minutes about the obscene power of chocolate. I'll just say that it's usually chocolate. And if you want to,
I'm already sold.
Buy it. So yeah, thank you notes are great, but chocolate, it's the same drug family as cocaine. They are cousins. Let's just leave it at that. And so I send chocolate to people, and boy, people are happy to hear from me every month, if for no other reason that they're getting a cool little chocolate gift. But that's an example of how I'm combining sensory experiences with a tool every month in a box and some other articles and a copy critique certificate for me. So that's what Marketing Multipliers is about. It's a lot of fun, and I'm forced to come up with good ideas every month. And so necessity really is the mother of invention. And that's how I do it for folks. Now, if people mention your name and they say that they found out about marketing multipliers from the Get Genius podcast, I will also mail out a copy of my new book, Marketing Multipliers. You don't have to buy it at Amazon for $14.95. I'll send you a free copy. Just have to reply to your email notification and say, I heard you on the Get Genius podcast, and my assistant will mail you a brand spanking new copy of my latest book for free. That's just an extra to thank folks who are your podcast listeners for giving it a try. That's at www.marketingmultipliers.com.
That is so generous and fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
I just think it's so fabulous that you're implementing your very own tools in what you do. And I know there's a lot of marketing companies out there, and it's funny because they'll do marketing for their clients, and yet when it comes to marketing their own brand, what is your brand exactly?
Exactly.
So it's just so awesome, that you're actually doing it, and you're walking the talk.
Well, I would never, I come from a long line of, I've been experimenting on people since I was a kid. I have two younger brothers, so they were my lab rats. We used to do just indescribably awful things to each other growing up. And so that's where I got the idea that experimentation is the way that you progress and you get smarter. And so before any tool goes out to the real world, I've experimented on myself. I've used it in my own business, and I don't release anything to the world that's not proven in some sense. So yeah, I'm a big believer in just doing what I teach, and it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy helping other folks.
Well, it's very much appreciated, and we've gotten so many great marketing multiplier tools just in this interview. So I hope that everybody signs up and at least gets that free trial. I know I'm going to do that as soon as I get off this interview with you.
Well, thank you, Summer.
We'll make sure to have all of the links to everything that you've mentioned in our show notes and on the blog post. And Kevin, this was so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
My pleasure. Hope to do it again sometime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's Get Genius. You can learn more about The Draw Shop at www.thedrawshop.com, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Your home for kick-butt custom whiteboard marketing videos. Your ideas come to life. Thanks for listening. Please share, comment, and make any suggestions for future Genius guests.